Worth. The value equivalent to that of someone or something under consideration. The level at which someone or something deserves to be valued or rated. Now, I may be very thirsty. I may be stranded out in the middle of the desert and I may have $15 in my pocket and someone may say to me, hey, do you want this bottle of water? And I'm like, fuck yes, I need that bottle of water, so I will pay them $15 for it. Does that mean that a bottle of water is worth $15? Absolutely not, but it's all about how someone is in need of something and will pay that. So Paul Pogba being valued at 100 million. 100 million pound is what Paul Pogba is valued at. Does that mean he's worth 100 million? Absolutely not. What it means is this transfer market that we live in today in world football is so insane. It is ridiculous that it means that some team is stupid enough to pay that. It doesn't mean that Paul Pogba is so talented that he's worth the amount of a small country or even a large country at that. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that the way our system works today in world football is that teams are stupid enough to pay ridiculous amounts of money for that player. So now that I've got that out the way, let's talk about Paul Pogba a little bit, right? He is a talented footballer. He has, as I've mentioned many times, has all the essential tools that's needed to become a fantastic footballer, potentially one of the best in the world. Is he at the moment at that level? No, not even close. There is numerous players in the world, if I was Manchester United, would be looking at to fill that void rather than spending 100 million. If you're offering me Paul Pogba for 40 or 50 million, it's still a ridiculous transfer sum, and it's what Dimitri Payet has been valued at the moment. I would maybe consider it a little bit more, but 100 million is just baffling to me. N'Golo Kante is a player that I would like to see in a Manchester United shirt. I think he fills the void that United need. Yes, they need a box-to-box midfielder. Seeing the attacking talent that they've brought in already, I think that N'Golo Kante could be a good signing to come in. Someone like Sal Niguez, who I've talked about before. But again, these are players that have had good seasons, and all of a sudden, this world we live in loves to associate ridiculous price tags on talent who are prospects. Not because they are deserving of that value, but because they are prospects. So to go back to the point about worth, I was on a couple of platforms talking about whether or not Paul Pogba was worth it. And people were justifying the case that he's worth that amount of money because Raheem Sterling has went for 50 million and Liverpool has spent 92 million on Southampton players in the last 3 years. That doesn't justify anything. That just reiterates the ridiculousness of your argument, that you're willing to pay that amount of money for a player because they're a prospect. You're gambling on these players. It doesn't mean they're worth it. Worth is a very important word in this argument. Paul Pogba is valued at 100 million. Valued at that. That's what you're paying with the risk that he may fall flat on his face or he may become a fantastic player. But worth means that you're paying for something that is deserving of that is deserving of it. But we know that the world that we live in, that level of worth is starting to skyrocket because teams are stupid enough. Teams have so much money, especially Premier League teams, have so much money that they don't know what worth is anymore. Because in 2013, I believe you'll see Xabi Alonso go for 8 million. And the same year, you'll see players like Lallana go for 25, 30 million. Players like Ricky Lambert go for that amount to Liverpool. Does that mean that because those players were signed for that value, that means they're better than Xabi Alonso? No, it just means that the value that in the transfer market that we deal with today is just ridiculous, and it's asinine to argue that because that amount of money is spent on a player, it means they're worth that. It just means that as inflation goes up, as the amount of money that is spent on players goes up, it just means that teams could put a higher price tag on those players with whether or not they're worth that or not. Igalo for Watford has had a good season, but the way things work, it's very easy to put a price tag on a player when they're a prospect and put a price tag on a player because they've had one good season. And we play into it because the media loves to try and bank on the next big talent. Because we haven't seen anyone really come close to Ronaldo or Messi, people love to gamble on prospects. People love to see Paul Pogba's age and think, he's it. He's going to be the next big thing, so let's slap £100 million price tag on him, and all of a sudden he's going to fix every problem. When it's not. He's not even close to it. Would I rather buy Antoine Griezmann? Yes. Would I rather pay enough money to buy Tweedy, who I know what I'm getting? Potentially, right? But again, this is me just rambling on about this constant amount of money that has been poured around, and people will look at that value and suddenly think that that player is great because of that value, when I think that's a really flawed outlook on the way that the footballing world works. All right, do I think that Paul Pogba will go to Manchester United? I think he could, but I'm surprised because it seemed like Paul Pogba tamed his own ambition for a season to remain at Juventus. And that's no discredit to Juventus and thinking that they wouldn't go on to obtain amazing heights. But Real Madrid were circling the pond last year. And Paul Pogba stayed with Juventus when he probably could have left after a great season before that. So I'm curious to know his thought process as why he thinks going to Manchester United would help him obtain that level of greatness, because he's a player that should be playing in the Champions League, that's going to grow with Champions League football, and is going to grow playing in a competitive environment week in, week out for a great team. So I'm surprised if Real Madrid were to meet that very high transfer value, which they have proven that they can meet that value. They did the same thing with James Rodriguez, another player. Do you think he's worth that amount of money? Worth, the key word here? No, but they're willing to pay that amount of money because he's had a great World Cup. I wouldn't be. I'm surprised that their name isn't the forefront. Maybe they're not interested. Maybe they've seen the World Cup and realised something that I've been saying for the last 6-7 months, that he's a good footballer, but he's not reached his potential yet. So he could reach that potential undoubtedly in a team like Real Madrid, but I'm surprised they're not leading the transfer talk. And it is Manchester United, the club that will be looking back at this as one of the worst business transactions in their history. They have a player that was already in their system that they didn't want to be patient with and grow that talent. Sir Alex made a few mistakes in his career, and I think this is one of them, but of course that's overwhelmed with the amount of success that the guy has had in his life. And I think that they're willing to pay this amount of money to kind of just say, all right, let's right the wrong here and let's get this guy in to fix it. But I just don't see it as the immediate fix. I don't see it, after watching him closely, being the be-all and end-all of what's going to fix this Manchester United team. I think that he could push the tempo for Manchester United and he could be a good acquisition. I just wonder whether that amount of money could be spent on numerous players in certain positions to bring in. But that's just my thoughts on it. But the overarching theme is that Paul Pogba, according to his agent, according to rumours, could be on his way to Old Trafford. So I want to know what you think in the comment section below. First question, is he worth, keyword worth here, I'm going to tattoo on my head and just reiterate everywhere I go, is he worth 100 million? What price tag would you put on him? What do you think of his performance at the Euros? What do you think he could do at Manchester United? Leave all the good stuff in the comment section below. Answer those questions. Hit me up on Twitter at Francis_Maxwell, and I'll see you guys very soon.